homies, how's it going? So, how to love yourself. Now this is something that was actually quite foreign and a mystery to me before I came to even know what it meant to love myself. And I feel it's from when we know how not to love ourselves, that's when we come to know how to love ourselves. We'll start off with some definitions. Love. An intense feeling of affection. And then what does affection mean? A gentle feeling of fondness or liking. And then the origins of affection. To influence.
Interesting.
So then some synonyms. Fondness is a synonym for love. And then tenderness is also a synonym for love. So then what does tenderness mean? Gentleness or kindness. Let's just say if we make a mistake, what's going to be the best way to respond to that? Is it going to be through being really harsh and like punishing ourselves? Or is it going to be loving and forgiving? Because we're always going to make mistakes, right? A really good example is that just say we've got a friend or a colleague that makes a mistake. How are they going to feel if we respond to their mistake with harshness or punishing them? They're going to feel horrible. They're going to be like, you know, and it's like, well, how do you think then we're going to feel if that's how we treat ourselves when we make a mistake? You know? And I feel like the whole point of recognizing when we make mistakes is not being too harsh, but then understanding how we could have done better. Because the reality is we're always going to make mistakes. So some ways of moving forward, so we have a better foundation for when we make mistakes and showing up in life in general, is integrity and accountability. So exploring what accountability is. The obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions. Right? And then responsibility. The state of having a duty to deal with something or having control over someone. Well, if that's the case, if we're then accepting responsibility and we're accepting that we do have control over it, the opposite of that is being a victim to things. By going, I don't have control over these things, well, we're already handicapping ourselves by saying that we don't have control over these things. With life, like, yeah, there are things that are out of control, but what we do have control of is how we respond to them. Responsibility. I feel that the beauty of accountability and what we need to find is that balance between being too hard with the accountability, but then not being too soft either. Because there's times when I've experienced that hard accountability and the fixed accountability where you didn't do that, that's it. It's just because you didn't do it. When what I've found, a lot of the time when I've said that I'll set out to do something and then I actually don't do it, it's because that there's something else that's actually unresolved and that I need to tend to. And it's why I'm avoiding doing what I set out to, because I'm avoiding something else completely. And so then that, you know, not being too soft either, then taking responsibility and going, okay, I'm unresolved here. So I take responsibility in not doing that, however I know why. And so I'm going to make sure that I resolve this before I go and embark on whatever it is. And then the exception, where we set out to do something and then we just don't do it because we don't do it. And what I've found from my experience with this is that when that happens, when we say we'll do something and then we're like, oh no, don't need to worry about it, it's not that important. Well, if there's something we set out to do that's going to better ourselves or better our circumstances, and then we're turning around and going, well, it's not that important, what are we then saying about ourselves? That we're not that important? Alright, so I feel that that's a good little summary on accountability. Now, integrity. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And then the other, the state of being whole and undivided. And then, if you didn't already know what whole meant, all of, entire, in an unbroken or undamaged state, in one piece. And so, I feel that a really great way of maintaining our integrity is boundaries. And those boundaries can be with other people, but then ourselves. Because just say if we have a goal, or we're setting out to do something, and we become divided, it's going to be harder to make our way or complete that goal that we're setting out. And then we ended up losing as a result. And then when there's needs that we have and we're too busy putting other people's needs before ours far too often, how are we gonna feel, really? You know, at the end of the day, we deserve to love on ourselves. You know, everyone is important, and that's important, but we are also important. If we want to be the best version of ourselves, we've got to treat ourselves like so, and so we can be at the best capacity we can be to be of service. And so before, how I mentioned lying. So lying, you could say, translates to something we're ashamed of, and shame, wanting to hide it away. You know, we don't want to speak that. It's the truth. And then this is the final point that I feel how to really love on ourselves and learn to love ourselves, is not to be ashamed of our mistakes and not to be ashamed of ourselves. Because when we hold shame to our mistakes, to any aspects of us, we're hiding it away. And what good is that going to do, really? You know, it's always going to be there, but if we're turning around and going, it's not good, it's really not going to do us any favors. And so what does shame mean? A painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. And then foolish translating to lacking good sense or judgment, unwise. Yeah? Humiliation translating to disgrace, a person or thing regarded as shameful and unacceptable. So, with all that said, so you're saying that you're unacceptable? If you're ashamed of that thing? And then, are we allowed to not be wise? Because going back to it, we are always going to make mistakes. It's part of the human experience. We don't learn unless we make mistakes. Because if we were wise from the beginning and we knew everything and we were perfect, life would be boring, right? So making mistakes can actually be a good experience and a fun one, oddly enough. Because it's through making mistakes that we actually have the opportunity to learn to become better and learn from those mistakes. And so I really hope that this video benefited you somehow. I just want to say that, again, there was a point in my life where I didn't know how to love myself. And it started off as simply recognizing that all I needed to do was to love myself. It's as simple as that. And wherever you are on your journey, if you're at the beginning, you will learn to love yourself. Because as I said at the beginning, it's when we know how to not know how to love ourselves, that's where we learn to love ourselves. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Lots of love, take care, and peace.